Welcome to this episode on transcending your zone of excellence to lead from your divine genius. So, if you've been hanging out with me for any amount of time, you know that I am a channel and I work with the guides. And I thought I would kick off this episode by bringing in the guides first, and then I'll circle back and kind of talk more about really how do we know when we're in our zone of excellence rather than our zone of genius, and really the benefits of leading from our genius, as well as a few steps to get there. So let's begin with the guides. So I'll just take a moment to bring them in. Hello, dear one. This is Toth with an expanded Council of Light, including the path of the Venus light, beings of light, moving more into the forefront of this divine transmission. We are delighted to be exploring this very profound topic. Before we go into the topic of your divine genius, which is a part of your unique divine design, we want to talk about the larger context of the elevation in consciousness and your journey as you choose to have an embodied path of elevating your consciousness by using the physical plane as your playground to evolve your consciousness. So there are different evolutionary stages in consciousness, and one is this genius stage, what we call the genius stage, or we will also call it the ascended mastery stage. And this stage in consciousness is where you have developed a lot of your skills. You've perhaps gone to school and you have developed a zone of excellence. You have a lot of hours and experience in what it is that you do in terms of the extraordinary work that you share with the world, as well as who you be. And so when you get to that stage, most likely you have a lot of certifications under your belt, or you may have gone down an academic route. You may have had a career for some amount of years in a certain thing. And then there's this desire to really go beyond excellence into genius, to go into your extraordinary, your legacy, your ascended masteries. And at this stage, although it is still aligned to have support, to partner with mentors such as ourselves, for those of you that are called, there's also this aspect where it's time for you to garner more from what you would create. And so if you've read 1,000 books and you get to the genius stage of consciousness, the genius consciousness, there'll be more for you to garner of writing your own book. Or there'll be more for you to garner, rather than teaching your teacher's modality, to create your own modality. Or it may be also more subtle than that, where you're synthesizing what you have been gathering, and you're bringing it together in a new way, or in an alchemized form. And so this genius stage is really in the larger context of elevating your consciousness. elevating your consciousness. And so now that we've laid the foundation of the what it is that we're speaking about, we will go into a little bit more about how is it that you go from what it is that most likely is your established expertise, what you already know, into the unknown. And when we say divine genius, we mean your extraordinary genius. When we talk about ascended mastery, we mean like that which you have also mastered. So as beings of light, as guides, as ascended masters, we often have ascended mastery in multiple areas. And so, for example, Isis is the ascended master of love, of magic, of midwifery, of crystals, or Toth, who's a part of this bandwidth that's transmitting right now, is the ascended master of communication, scribing, the Akashic records, alignment or healing, and multiple areas of ascended mastery. And so when you are at this stage, and you'll probably notice it because there'll be this sense of like you're only scratching the surface, or what you're currently doing is good, and yet you're really looking for the extraordinary. There'll often be a deepening into what it is that you have gathered during different cycles. And so, for example, for Danielle, in her first career as a counselor and working with battered women, where she really had developed a lot of skill sets and different things, then she went into massage and body work, and having many hours and bodies under her hands. And then there was again the energy work, and then it kept going in different cycles. And yet, just like as we're sharing about Danielle's journey, you also will tend to have an area, even if the areas are different. Like for Danielle, it's very much been about entrepreneurship, as she's been 30 years as an entrepreneur at this point, as well as the healing arts. So alignment, personal growth, spiritual growth, her own, and certainly contributing to others. And so when you are really moving from your zone of excellence into your divine genius, one of the things that can be useful is to really look at what it is that you have been up to thus far, and to allow yourself to be in this place of what's emerging that seems new. So that is our opening message. We're stepping aside at this point. So inviting you to take a moment to integrate not only the words that have been shared, yet the energy. All is light and love, and we are all. Well, that was fun, Danielle. You're moving back into the forefront to talk a little bit more about how do you know you're in your zone of excellence and your genius. And oftentimes your zone of excellence is what you have already established, you've had success with, most likely you have earned money from it, or received recognition for it. And and then your genius is what you're meant to be and do and express. And there's something that is very bespoke about it, that's very customized, that's very unique to you. So even if it looks like somebody else is doing something similar, there'll be an aspect of it that's absolutely unique to you. And at this stage in consciousness, you may be having the thoughts of like, I know I'm meant for something more. Why aren't things moving along faster? And then also this kind of like, well, I have this big vision, yet like, can I really do it? And like, is it going to be enough? If I really align with that divine genius or that ascended mastery, like, will it work? Because you know that this is working. So there is a little bit of an explore energy that really helps as you're in this space to transition. And it is a time to really slow down, to speed up, to do some deep reflection. And in our highest contribution audit, our 30-day temple, where this is really what we are supporting our clients with, it is a time to take a pause, to tune back into your ultimate vision for your life and for your extraordinary work in the world, and to make this shift, and to have a plan of like what is like one key needle mover, so that when you make this shift, even though you may be having those thoughts of like, how long is this going to take? And do I have to start over again? It's not a starting over. It's really an extension of what you've already been doing, yet usually blending in more of your some capacities that have been on the back burner to be in the forefront. And so this explore energy, like going on a treasure hunt, again, you're not starting over or just like getting to know yourself at this stage. You're on the precipice of really being in that seat of your genius or your ascended mastery. And so you might start to feel frustrated, like, how do you know you're in your excellence? And of course, this framework I really love as well from The Big Leap, the book The Big Leap, and that there are like your zones of incompetence, competence, excellence, genius. We're really talking about this excellence to genius. And in that zone of excellence, there you may have a sense that you're like being pulled into too many directions, or you're being pulled into work that you have a hunch that somebody else could do, even though you may be really excellent at it. And then there can be a frustration. Like, of course, if you're really in your zone of incompetence or your competence, then that frustration meter will be higher. Yet even in the zone of excellence, it's like, okay, I'm really good at this. This is working well. Yet I know I'm meant for something more. And really taking the time to assess like what we do in the highest contribution audit, to get clear on that, because it might surprise you. It might surprise you because, like the guides we're talking about, you have ascended mastery in multiple areas, or you've developed skill sets in multiple areas. And so, for example, for me, or for a lot of transformational folks in the transformational industry, whether you're a conscious practitioner, or a conscious entrepreneur, or a conscious professional, like emerging or established, because we work with all three, there is that place or that seat where you're kind of wearing multiple hats. And that's also a part of being multidimensional, but that's a topic for another podcast. Yet your genius usually is multidimensional. And so in the transformational industry, the way that this can show up is a sense of like niche switching. Like, oh, I want to be in this niche and this niche and this niche, where what you're looking for is a place and a space where you can bring all of you without having to leave behind essential and very powerful parts of yourself. And so let's talk about our transformational entrepreneur, for example. Like they may be an author. So that's a genius to be able to communicate through writing. They may be a coach or a practitioner in a certain modality. So they may be creating products or programs or books or whatever that is. And then they may also be working with clients. And then maybe they have a podcast or whatever those different things are. You may feel like, oh, all of those are my genius. And yet there may be one that is ahead, like really is a little bit more ahead. So when you look at the different zones, and then divine relationships is so key here to really surround yourself with others who have geniuses in areas that you don't, so that you can really be freed up to lead from your divine genius. There is also that real nuancy sorting of like, could somebody do this better than I can? Could somebody do this more efficiently than I can? Just because I can doesn't mean I should. Like these kind of questions. So for some coaches or practitioners, they may realize that yes, they're amazing at offering sessions, and yet their genius might be in teaching, or it might be in creating something that's going to reach a larger audience. And so this time, it really is an audit or an intake, where an assessment where you really go through and go, okay, well, what would be freed up? Like if you're kind of going, is this my excellence? Is this my genius? Or here are all the 5 things that I feel like I'm really great at. And then you say, okay, like, what if that one, what if I wasn't doing that one anymore? Just to try on, like, what would that free up more time for? And that's another way, as we're talking about kind of the first steps to get there already, that's another way to start to identify, like the first step to get there is to really contemplate this and to slow down, and to you can even ask like a few people that know you really well, or again, if you're a conscious professional, or you're an entrepreneur or practitioner, like what do 5 individuals that have worked with you like really appreciate about you? And that may or may not give you information, right? But it does give you some feedback from the outside. Oftentimes your zone of genius, when you're in it, it's also that thing that will really it's like time stands still, and you're really in the flow, and you're in that space where it almost feels so easy. Not always, but it can feel so easy that you may be wondering, like, is this enough, right? Is it enough? But it's important to remember that genius that you have, those that you have a divine appointment with, to contribute to meet, to be friends with, to share your extraordinary work in the world with, like they're looking for that. They're looking for that. And another way to kind of contemplate this is a little bit reverse engineering, where you can start to look at and say, okay, what have you invested in over the years that wasn't your genius? And it may be very obvious, like if you're having your kitchen remodeled, you hired a contractor, if that's not what your profession is. And then it may be more subtle, like for me, I've invested in business coaches over the years, and I'll also invest in individuals that are really great at structure, at systems, at uh, kind of planning ahead, like all those kinds of things. Although I have developed those same skill sets over the years, like they weren't natural for me. They were more learned zones of excellence. Whereas the divine genius, it's already in you. It's like a natural strength. And when you're aligned with your unique divine design and you're leading from your divine genius, there's something so magnetic and attractive about it. So, some of the benefits of leading from your genius are that when you're in your zone of excellence, there are definitely time leaks, there are energy leaks, there are money leaks, there are relationship leaks. Like that is just a fact. So whether you're doing like the $15 an hour job, which somebody else could equally do even better than you, that is a time leak, or just that, yeah, it's like this frustration will start to mount, and that slowly eats away at your energy, and there's that part of you that starts to wither like a flower that's not getting enough water, because there's something very nourishing about being in your seat of your ascended mastery, or in your seat of your divine genius. Plus, some of the benefits are when you're there, that is most likely what is going to be very generative for you in your extraordinary work and life. It's going to be generative in what the Magdalens talk about in terms of multi-D abundance. It's going to be generative where you're going to be energized at the end of the day rather than depleted, or you're energized while you're sharing what your gifts in the world rather than being depleted. And you're going to be really making great money and financial expansion as you're in it. And as well as really be like, when you're leading from your genius, you also start to really be magnetizing those that are waiting for you to be in that genius. And so you may think a little bit of a sliding doors scenario. Like sometimes I do that, where I go like, yeah, I was a really amazing practitioner and healer. Like healing is one of my zones of excellence. And individuals, when they come into my field, they naturally start to come into a greater state of alignment. And it is still a part in what it is that I do with the guides. And yet we do it in a different way, which is really through frequency and vibration and speaking and the channeling, as well as assisting individuals to really shift from the slower vibrational body, mind, emotions that are looking to be quote unquote healed, yet really they're looking to be evolved. And so, yes, like I could have had a beautiful career in life offering one-on-one sessions and offering healing. And I've had clients that have had a miracle results of physical healing and all the things. And yet at the same time, if I would have stayed only in that, I know that there just would have been this part of me that would have would have been underutilized, like this potential that hadn't gotten tapped into. And also back to what the guides were talking about in terms of this being an evolutionary stages in consciousness. When you stay in your zone of excellence, there's not really a lot more to be garnered. Like, I see this a lot with some of our clients who they may be in their zone of genius, and yet they don't have a vehicle that really is going to support that genius being out in the world. And so maybe they've developed their genius by thousands and thousands and thousands of one-on-one sessions, and they've gotten really good at their craft. Like, we have clients that are psychiatrists or therapists, or also that are real estate agents or in finance, and so there's been a lot of hours in that, and yet that vehicle of one-to-one, it's not allowing them to lead from that genius in a larger way. So we're talking about two things there. It's like, what are the benefits of leading from your genius? And then what is kind of the best way to express your genius? And in our highest contribution audit, we really look at both, because again, most likely, as you're already in your zone of excellence, you're clear, like you're clear on what you're here to do, and you've already got a lot of experience. You're doing a lot of things well, things are working. And yet at the same time, there is an unknown, or there's not crystal clarity on what does this look like in its fullest expression, in terms of this has led me to be ready to the level of genius or ascended mastery. And yet at the same time, it's not quite it. So if I look at my trajectory of being a counselor and then being a healer, like, all of that helped me to become the master channel that I am. And as an entrepreneur as well, and being able to manifest on the physical plane, it's another form of channeling. And then what really is one of my zones of divine genius is also doing that long distance, like through remote energy work, and also to be able to create. So being a creator being and creating in the physical plane really is, for me, that zone of genius. And all of this, and assisting others to be able to do that as well, all of the stages in the zones of excellence, like they were a part of it. And so that's most likely very similar for you, even if it looks like one of our clients right now was an engineer, and then she opened dance and art and swinging, like, into two different things, and now she's in the process of bringing those together. Or another one of our clients, who she had taken drama, had a master's degree in drama, and then she had developed psychoanalysis, and then she started working with guides and channeling and light language, and now she's in the process of bringing that all together, so that when she works with her clients, they do get the integrated aspect of everything that she learned from teaching drama and spontaneity, and as well as, like, she really gets the deep psychoanalysis perspective that needs to be addressed, as well as the working with the frequency and the vibration. And so even if she's doing something that is similar to other practitioners or teachers out there, like, her genius is a blend of all of those. It's going to be very, very unique to her. And so that is something to really, as you're coming away from this podcast, really inviting you to slow down, to speed up. If you'd like to explore working with the guides and I around this and our highest contribution audit, invite you to reach out, and we can talk about if that's an aligned next step for you, because again, most likely this is like the back of your hand. Sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. And that's why, even though at this stage of genius level, you really are in a place where if you write your book or you create your modality, or if you have your business or you add to your industry, or that you're in this kind of transmitting mode rather than receiving, reading 1,000 books or taking somebody else's program or those kinds of things. Like, even though all that's true, having a mentor at this stage that knows you and gets you and gets your multidimensionality and everything you've been up to on the physical plane and the higher planes is really an invaluable resource, because again, it's most likely like the back of your hand. It's so familiar, or there is some element of it that may be hidden or not seen by you. And so, as we're wrapping up here, just really want to extend my appreciation and love for you, for all that you're up to in your extraordinary life and work, and really inviting you to explore what leading from your divine genius will be like and would be like. Because I don't know about you, but for me, that feeling at the end of the day that I have left it on the stage, that I have done and been what it is that I came to do and be in this lifetime, that I've sung my song. And also, like, as I see our clients do that as well, it's deep down to the bone level of fulfillment. And those days that go by where our clients or myself, we slip back into the zone of excellence, it just doesn't have that same level of deep satisfaction. And that's, quite frankly, a lot of what drives me and in our work with our clients. And my divine genius is very much tied into supporting others to be in their zone of divine genius. So thank you so much for tuning in. Love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out about the highest contribution audit if you're called. Leave a review on the podcast, and sending you much love and appreciation. Bye for now.